Because the people that love to do the most important things do the most important things. The people that don't love to do the most important things pretend to do the most important thing. People are so inefficient. They're habitually inefficient. You have to look at it and say, let's look at where you're spending time and who you're spending time with and what that gives you back.
Welcome to Start With a Win, where we unpack leadership, personal growth and development, and how to build a better business. Let's go. Coming to you from Area 15 Ventures and Start With a Win headquarters, it's Adam Contos with Start With a Win. Have you ever hit that moment where you're ready to throw up your hands and just say, F it, and walk away? What if that exact moment is where your breakthrough actually begins? Today, I've got someone who has turned that crossroads into a transformational framework for living and leading with intention. Today, we meet Shaun Rawls. He's the founder and CEO of Rawls Consulting, a growth-minded powerhouse that invests in people and real estate ventures. Before that, he spent 25 years building one of Atlanta's top residential real estate firms, over 2,000 agents and more than $4 billion in annual sales, while earning national recognition as one of the most powerful people in real estate. He's a sought-after speaker, a seasoned leader, and the author of, you guessed it, F It Less, which is a fresh, purpose-driven approach to navigating tough decisions and building a life you truly want. And he's also the author of the Energy Quadrant, Master Your Energy, Multiply Your Life. Shaun, welcome to Start With a Win.
Thanks for having me on, Adam. I appreciate it, buddy.
You and I have already had a lot of conversation about, growing business, getting rid of some of the garbage in our lives, really the time wasters and the effortless type items that you talk about so much. Give us a little brief flyover of your background. I know you're really big in sales, recruiting, business growth, leadership, things like that. So how did you get to where you're at today? And, just take us through that journey real brief.
Good question. Well, I started selling real estate when I got my license when I was in college at Georgia Tech. And I liked it better than anything I was studying. So I agreed that I was going to sell real estate when I got out of college, and did. Worked for a little company, and my grandmother was a big agent with Remax back in the day.
Cool.
And I worked for a buyer's agency company, and I called her one day and I was like, hey, I've got this person that wants to list their house, and my broker says we don't do that. We just represent buyers. What should I do? And my grandmother said, well, you should get the hell out of there, and you should go to Remax, which is where all the great agents go. And I was like, okay. So I did that and worked there successfully for a number of years. And then I had the chance I met a guy who was trying to bring Keller Williams to Atlanta in 1999. And I was dumb enough to start the first Keller Williams office in the state of Georgia. And I grew that to 6 offices and ended up having, 2,000 agents and doing about $5 billion a year in sales. And we ended up in kind of the top 30 or 40 brokers in the country. And that's kind of my story. That's kind of what got me here. And then I stepped out of operations in 2014. I was running a region up in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, in addition to our offices here in Atlanta. And that was fun. But I stepped out of operations in 2014 and haven't looked back. It's just been fun. I've been consulting and speaking and writing books, as you mentioned. So
awesome. It's kind of interesting. The key components that get people to successful places in business and in life, regardless of the brand you're part of, that it's woven into the fabric of that human being. And if you're gonna exercise those muscles on a daily basis and build upon that, you're gonna find success in most anywhere you go, as long as you're finding good talent, you're cultivating that talent, and you're doing the hard things that other people won't do. It's kind of fun.
I would agree with that.
So, I mean, it's, you've talked about effortless
Yes.
and getting to this breaking point of, just kind of throwing up your hands and going, I'm going to stop doing the stupid shit and I'm going to do the things that matter. Why did you write effortless? What was the impetus for that?
So, when I stepped out of operations, I didn't know what my future was going to look like. And I thought I had all this stuff in my head that I needed to get out. So I ended up writing a book that I felt like if nobody else read but my children, I'd be happy that I wrote it. And so it's kind of a book on how to live a great life and what's most important. And the whole effortless concept is, I watch so many producers in our industry, great ones. You look at a lot of people, the biggest decisions they've ever made in their life usually involved them getting to a point where they just said F it in the most traditional sense of the word, right? And the problem I had with that is it was reactive, and it was very, if you say F it, I think you're giving up or you're giving in to something on some level. And it's a frustrating, just throwing in the towel of sorts. And I thought, what if F it wasn't a bad word? What if it wasn't reactive? What if you could take it and turn it into something that was more offensive in nature, where you were actually driving instead of playing a victim on some level? And what would that look like? So that's kind of how the book got written.
That's awesome. I mean, I love that. And I'm a huge fan of, the successful people say no more than they say yes.
It's a hard lesson to learn, isn't it?
It is. Why do we feel so vulnerable when we start saying no and just
I think
away?
It's a rewire process, Adam. I mean, if you think about growing up, I mean, everybody's got different childhoods and different whatever, but at some level, you're kind of trying to figure out how to succeed in the world and deal with difficult teachers. I'm dealing with that with a kid who's in high school right now, and he thinks he knows everything, right? And well, this teacher's stupid. This teacher, I was like, well, this part of school is not the test you take. It's really realizing there are difficult people in your path, and you have to figure out how to deal with that and work around that. Because sometimes you don't have a choice because you don't own the company that you guys work for. And it's kind of interesting because I think that we become people pleasers in that process, and some more than others. Some are naturally disposed to that, and some just kind of learn it as a skill. So I think once you get out in the wild and you've got all these skills of pleasing people and realizing that if I please people on some level, I get rewards, whether that's trophies at school or trophies on the field or whatever that looks like. And I think it's a hard lesson to learn, to go, that's not as important as an adult as it was growing up. It's a valuable skill, but it's a skill I need to not make a part of my identity, but just a tool in my toolbox. And it's hard.
That's an interesting statement, because it seems like, we train people to be customer centric. We teach our kids that, essentially do what you're told, which is a people pleasing skill.
For sure.
And then we go into business. And then ultimately it comes down to, as you reach that executive level, it's about saying yes to less and no to more, so that you can focus on, like those 1 to 3 KPIs or those 1 to 3 key business drivers.
That's right.
So it seems like you're pleasing people less, but you're pleasing specific people more.
Yeah, I think the message in business is if you kind of look at that energy quadrant thing, there's that stuff in the ad quadrant which we're just good at, and it's a lot of the people pleasing stuff that's part of your core identity, and it's easy to get lost in that quadrant, where instead of where that multiply quadrant is, this is the stuff that actually moves the needle in your business. And some of that work is harder, and some of that work involves rejection, and some of that work involves being more vulnerable, and a lot of things that people aren't naturally good at. And so they tend to tell people they're great at it and they love it, and then they kind of get lost and wrapped up in that identity process of pleasing the people they work with and not spending the time they need to spend on the tasks that really make a difference in their business.
All right, I want to talk a little bit more about this, because this is a key skill in sales, a key skill in, being in real estate, but also just being in life and being a leader. I say no, and I say it nicely to people constantly. I had a great meeting with a colleague in investment yesterday, and he's like, "Hey, I got all these opportunities out there. You want to meet with this person? You want to meet with this person?" And everybody wants to just throw introductions at you. And I'm like, time out. I said, I will let you know when I'm ready for an introduction. And I really appreciate all the effort you're going through, but I have this limited time on my hands every day, and I want to use it for the most effective things. How do we start to transition people into that mode? Take your high schooler, for instance, and, to be able to say no to their friends. That's one of the hardest things you can do when you're growing up, but it's one of the most valuable things you can do as an adult. How do we get people to transition that way and not be a jerk about it?
I think it is, I think there's 100 different answers to that question, all of which are super important. But I think I think once you're clear about the path you're on in the moment, like if you look at it and you go, okay, this is great that you do that, Adam, and you say no, and you're clear about your time and your whatever. But if I backed you up and we were having this conversation 20 years ago or 25 years ago, you probably weren't saying that. You were probably saying yes more because at that time, it was more important for you were clear about where you were going. And those introductions and those relationships were door openers and opportunities for you. And now you've got to the point where I think our priorities shift at different points in our lives. And if we're really clear about where we've been, where we are, and where we're going, because it's always different. Like it's different here now than it was 5 years ago. It's different 5 years ago than it was 10 years ago. It's just different. But that's because we evolve. And the problem is, when we evolve and we don't change our priorities as a result of the evolving, we're in trouble. We're in trouble.
Good point. That's a good point.
I think the no thing is, I can remember graduating college, and I went to school at Georgia Tech. So I'm probably the only person that graduated that 4-year institution and didn't get a job. Like I went into real estate, and everybody I know went to work for Microsoft, went to Apple, went to UPS, went to IBM. Like that's what you do when you graduate Georgia Tech. And all of my friends that I graduated with, like they were partying on Friday night and they were partying on Thursday night, and then they were getting up and going to work and hitting their 9 to 5. And I was in a 7-day-a-week job. Like all of a sudden, like the answer was, I can't go out Friday night. I've got to show property in the morning. I've got a listing appointment. I've got like my work week is 7 days a week at 21 years old. And I was burning it. And so it quickly kind of learned that the people that were really important, a lot of the people that were really important to me for a while, our values and our priorities didn't align where we were starting out. They got $80,000 jobs to start with, and I got a job that paid nothing unless I killed something. So we just had different priorities, and that's okay. But that's part of growing in life and realizing that and saying, okay, you're awesome and I love you, but we can't hang out for a while. I got to make some money.
It sounds like you're writing the energy quadrant right now.
Ha! Well, not really, but it's all a part of it, right? I mean, we're all just this patchwork quilt of experiences. And
yeah,
it comes out.
Okay, so tell me, why did you write the energy quadrant, and what? Let's start digging in a few of those.
So energy quadrant's interesting. I've been teaching it for 20 something years, and when I struggled in whether or not to put it in the book Effortless. And I ultimately ended up saying, you know what, I'm not going to put it in there. And when I do keynotes and stuff like that, it'll be bonus material to Effortless because it means a lot. And the more I did it and the more I kept doing it, the more I realized this just is so good, and it just needs its own platform, and it doesn't need to be an add-on material. It's kind of the main event when you really peel back the onion and look at it. So that's kind of what drew me to it. And I thought, I'm going to start playing around with it and seeing what happens. Because everybody kept saying, when are you going to write another book? And I was like, I'm not writing another book. I'm done. I'm one and done. And then, I don't know. Then I started thinking, this probably should be a book. So I started playing around with it.
I love it. And by the way, for anybody out there who hasn't written a book, it is a huge freaking undertaking. It is your heart and soul for like 8 to 12 months easily. And then that's just the beginning.
We both have a friend in common, Laura Morton, who's amazing. And
what is she like? 27 New York Times bestsellers or something like that?
It's sickening to think of the success that woman has had. I mean, she's truly unbelievable. And she just wrote Susan Lucci's book, which is unbelievable. But she's when I went to her with Effortless, and I was like, I've got this idea for a book. Since you're a big author, I'd love to know what you think. And she was like, oh my God, I love this. And she's like, I'll help you get it off the ground. I'll work with you on it. And I was like, she's like, I won't write it for you like I do my other clients, but I'll kind of coach you through the process. And I thought that'd be fantastic. But my biggest aha with that was, she said, okay, so I was like, so when do we start writing? Do you want me to send you write? She's like, don't write a thing. She's like, I'm going to interview you. She said, we're going to schedule times and we're just going to interview. I'm going to interview you for like hours at a time for about a month. And I was like, but when do we write? She's like, no, we're not writing it. And I was like, okay. And then, but she's like, well, here's the price. She said, when you write, you edit. And when you talk, you don't edit. She's like, so I'm a good interviewer. And she's probably one of the best I've ever conversationalists I've ever seen. But she would interview me, and we'd have these huge conversations, and she recorded them all, and then she sent them off to her guy. And next thing you know, he came up with a whole outline and all kinds of material that we could use and all kinds of stuff. And it was like, oh, that was such a huge aha that you start writing a book by not writing a book, but you start talking about the book.
Yeah.
And so much more comes out of that process. Fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, huge shout out to Laura. Hey, Laura, I'm sure you're listening to this. It's, just brilliant human being and such a nice person overall on this planet. My wife was just out at Susan's book launch with Laura. So
good.
They had a blast. Hey, you when you wrote the energy quadrant, give us, obviously quadrant, there's 4 quadrants here.
Technically, it's the energy quadrants, right? Technically.
Take us through those. What are those 4 pieces?
So if you took a piece, I always do people where you take a piece of paper, you separate into 4 quadrants. Top left is plus, it's your add quadrant. And add quadrant is, these are the things that you do in the relationships that you have in the environments you're in that add to the quality of your life or business and give you energy.
Love that.
Then you move over to the right, top right is subtract. And subtract is the relationships, the tasks, and the environments that do not add to the quality of your life or business and don't give you energy. They may not even take it away necessarily, but it may just be a neutral. But it doesn't give you anything. It might take away some, might not. We'll talk about that. But bottom left is multiply. Multiply. If add is good, multiply is great. These are the key relationships, the key tasks, the key environments that you're in that don't just give you energy, but friggin' multiply it. It's the cash register for your business. It's the 2 or 3 things that really drive results in your business. And then the bottom right is divide. And it is all the toxic, emotional, crazy distractions, the Molotov cocktails that show up at the end of the day, the deals that fall through, the nasty clients, the just when bad stuff happens and ruins your day. That's the division quadrant.
Wow.
So those are the 4. And so it's kind of interesting. And when I started looking at, because I consult like you, I consult with business owners and stuff like that. And the line that goes vertical, separating plus and multiply from subtract and divide, I call that the success line. Because I'll have people say, okay, so once we understand and identify, like if we were going through an assessment and say, okay, give me all the things that come to mind that fall in your add quadrant, things that fall in your subtract quadrant. And by the way, the subtract quadrant is the quadrant of tolerance. It's the stuff you tolerate. And it's probably stuff that might have been in your add quadrant, like we talked about a minute ago, where you kind of outgrew it and you shouldn't be doing it anymore, but you're still hanging on. And people will list that, and then people will list their multiply, and then people will list their divide. And then I say, so how much of your week do you think you spend in each of these quadrants? And you can do it by hours, or you can do it by percentages as long as it equals 100. And when you look at it, if your left side of that vertical line is less than your right side, I call that line the success line. And if your right side is bigger than your left side, I can absolutely tell you a business that's behind on goals, that's not going to hit what they do because they're not doing the things that matter the most. And they're spending too much time getting distracted by things that they should be saying no to.
So you want to move the success line. You want to enlarge the positive side of the success line and
right.
Decrease the negative side, if you will. So how do we, and obviously this time audit is a big part of that. And I'm a huge fan of time audits. I have a time audit process that I put people through and things like that. You measure every half hour for a week and take a look at it, productive versus non-productive. And I think that's probably what we're looking at here is a productive side and a non-productive side.
It is.
But ultimately, I mean, what causes this non-productive side? Obviously, there's a lot of distractions we face in life. Like people go, I'm looking for business, and all they're doing is thumb scrolling on Facebook and Instagram, which is not looking for business, folks. Yeah. But how do we move things to that productive side versus and then remove things from the non-productive side? What are some of the key points?
I've always said that, You look at anybody that's busy and successful, and most everybody's walking around and they're trying to put 10 pounds of poop in a 5-pound bag.
Yep.
Right. So when you or I come to somebody and say, here's what you need to do. You need to here's some more poop to put in your bag. The immediate reaction is, I don't have room I don't have any more room to do anything. So most people are so inefficient. They're habitually inefficient. Wow. And you have to look at it and say, let's look at where you're spending time and who you're spending time with and what that gives you back. Because when you look at it strictly from an energy standpoint and you think, what do you love to do? And are you doing it? Because the people that love to do the most important things do the most important things. The people that don't love to do the most important things pretend to do the most important things. So we have to look at it and say, are you in the right spot? Are you doing the things that you're naturally gifted at that actually give you, make you, I have this whole thing about work and whether, if you're willing to work or you want to work, those are two very different things. If your wife's willing to go out with you tonight versus she wants to go out with you tonight, those are two different experiences. And when you think about it, how much stuff are you just willing to do every day just because it's part of your job? And how much stuff do you man, I'm so excited I get to do this. I want to do this. I can't wait to do this. That's why in my company, I was like, anybody that says, thank God it's Friday, we have a problem. Because that's a huge pet peeve of mine. But I think people need to figure out people just need to understand where they're being inefficient, where they're spending their time on tasks. And the problem is it's habitual because they started it. They're probably doing things that they started doing and they were great at once upon a time that was good for them. Almost like what you and I were talking about a minute ago. 20 years ago, what you and I were doing every day looks very different than what you and I are doing every day today.
Right.
So, but if we still kind of ran our life the way we ran it 20 years ago, we would have a whole different outcome and we would be frustrated because there was no alignment with our energy and our tasks and our priorities. And I think most of the world's just running around and they're just out of alignment. And once you can show them how to get alignment back to that left side of the quadrant and go, you've got to let go of some stuff. And here's what that looks like. Because once you do this assessment and you see, once I go, hey, Adam's a divide for me. I just always thought Adam was a guy I had to put up with because we worked together. But now I just actually put him down as a freaking divide. I'm never going to look at Adam the same again. Now I'm going to look at him like any time I spend with Adam now, I'm going to kick myself in the ass because I know better. I've already done this exercise and he's a clear divide. Why I need to eliminate that from my life because that's sucking up energy and it's sucking up time.
Wow.
And I think relationships, I think where leaders get in trouble a lot because we love people and we appreciate people that put in good time and put in good work and had some great results for us 5 years ago.
Yep.
But now they're not moving the needle and we just have this sense of responsibility for somebody and they've become more and more mediocre over time that when you look at energy and the time you spend thinking about or covering up for or overcoming somebody's inadequacies or mediocrity, it's shocking how many people, the relationships, particularly in small businesses, that are really taking their eye off the ball of what their most important tasks are because of the sense of obligation and responsibility for people that they shouldn't be propping up.
Right. I mean, it seems like, over time we start to give a little more cushion to just companionship and less to productivity. And, there's a balance for it. You don't want to be known as the person that's doing nothing but cracking the whip all the time. But at the same time, hey, if we can get a bunch of stuff done together in a really driven period of time, let's be productive when we're together and be those multipliers. That other time, that companionship and that relaxation time happens
a lot. I mean, it's I think as a leader, I think growth is your best friend.
Oh, totally.
I mean, we used to have office managers. We ran a tight ship in our Keller Williams world. And we used to have office managers, and office managers were, they were the people doing the books and crunching the numbers and cutting the checks. So when I would say, okay, so we've got 150 people, I want to get to 250 people in the next 12 months. Like, you can have 9 people in your organization going, this is awesome. But that office manager is thinking, 100 more of these idiots I got to deal with every day, right? I mean, it's like they don't want growth. They just want their paycheck and they want their job and they want to keep it steady. So I can remember having a conversation with one of our guys and going, can you tell me what you hate doing? Like, what about your job? Like, I know you like a lot of it because it's whatever. But if I asked you the things that you really didn't like doing in your business, could you? And they go, oh yeah, that's easy. I don't like doing this. I like doing that. And I don't like doing that. And then I'd say, okay, if I made a deal with you, and the deal is, if we get to 250 people happily, I'll hire somebody to do all those things for you. And you won't have to do them anymore.
I love that.
And all of a sudden they go, you took somebody who was a resistor to growth and going, wait, growth is good for me, you mean? Like, okay. Like, tell me how that, oh, really? I will never have to do it. I go, I will hire somebody. Their job will be to do the things you just gave me.
That's awesome.
And they go, how do we get to 250? And I go, that's what I'm talking about.
What an incentive. Remove the pain. I mean,
remove the pain.
Yeah, that's great.
Remove the pain. Because, I mean, not everybody gets, we, in COVID, we had agents that were telling me my staff was not being supportive. People were struggling in COVID. Not COVID, but go back, not COVID. I'm talking about the Great Recession from 2008 and 2012, where it was just like hard in real estate. And our staff was getting our agents were getting maniacal because they were losing deals and they weren't making any money. And they were being tough. And so it occurred to me, our staff was they didn't have the empathy that they needed to have for real estate agents. So we had a staff meeting and I said, hey, listen, I want to let you guys know, because, we were hearing about real estate offices closing or firing people or whatever it was. So I was like, listen, we all know what's going on out there. It's kind of tough. I was like, we're not going out of business, but I was like, I just want you all to know we're not going to make payroll at the end of the month. We're not going to make it. And I just need you guys to hang in there with me, because it's going to be okay. But I need to not pay you at the end of this month for this month. And I will make it up for you later. But this month, we're just not going to make payroll. And I just said that, and you could just feel the energy in the room. Like, people were starting to freak out and sweat. Like, we're not getting paid, right? So I let them sit with it for a minute. And I was like, all right, so here's what I want to let you know. Everything I just told you was a lie. We're fine. You're going to get payroll. I was like, but for 30 seconds, I wanted you to feel what these agents feel like every single freaking day.
Yep.
Like, oh my God, I'm not going to get paid. How am I going to pay my rent? How am I going to make a car payment? I was like, I don't want anybody to ever feel like, forget how you just felt. And I want you to treat these agents with some kindness and respect, because that's what they freaking live with. You're getting a paycheck, whether the market's up or down, whether they close a deal or not. And you can get insensitive to that, but it is imperative that you realize these people are your boss and they're in pain right now.
That's it. I mean, just running through that moment makes a big difference.
I mean, I think as a leader, it's our job to understand, how do we create more culture in our business so that it's a place that people appreciate and it's real and it's not just a bunch of, smoke and mirrors and
exactly.
Everybody says the nice quotes on Facebook and Instagram, and everybody talks about what's great about working at this company. But sooner or later, you got to prove it.
That's it. Stress creates strength. I love it. So, Shaun, where can people find you online to learn more about these concepts and check out your
I'm pretty active on Facebook and Instagram for the most part. Shaun Rawls and the Shaun Rawls on Instagram. doing more TikTok stuff and that sort of thing. But Instagram, Facebook, you can find me, and my website, ShaunRawls.com.
Awesome. And that's ShaunRawls. Make sure you check out Shaun on the interweb and take a look at some of his work here. It's very, very helpful in growing your business and yourself. Shaun, I have a question I ask all the great leaders on Start With a Win.
Sure.
And you probably have a wonderful answer here. How do you start your day with a win?
Ooh, that is a good question. It's actually good timing, because I started last month. I've never been one to do gratitude and all that stuff. It just seemed kind of hokey pokey to me. Just whatever. I'm not knocking it. It just didn't resonate with me.
Right.
And then I had a guy tell me that he does 9 appreciations in 9 minutes every day.
Wow.
And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that for a month. I'm going to commit to it. And every day I got up early, sat down, I set my timer on my phone, and 9 minutes, and I started writing down and to start with, it was hard. Like, it was hard. And it took me like 10 minutes to get my 9, now it's like 5. Like, you train it's like, I'm looking for it. I see it more. So I did that. And then I took it to another level, and I went to ChatGPT, and I said, hey, here's all the things, knowing everything you know about me. These are things in my life that I know about myself that I wish were better. And these are things in my life that I want to have more of. And I want you to create a rewiring process for me of prayer and affirmations 3 times a day. In the morning, midday, and evening. And I want a prayer and affirmation for each of those 3 times in a day. And I'm going to read them, so forth, every day. So I've been doing that for 2 months now. And I got to tell you, the process of the 9 appreciations and having a prayer and affirmation that I read out loud, that I helped craft and edit and get to where I really like it, is amazing. And it sets my entire day off, and it continues it throughout the day as I finish, and it ends at night, and it just keeps rolling. But it's a really great process that I found that works for me, and it certainly starts my day off with a win.
That's a really cool answer. I have not heard that one in 500 episodes. We have not heard this process. I've heard the affirmations, but I love the way that you go back and turn those into prayers, or take your things you appreciate and turn them into prayers and affirmations. I mean, this is a winner right here, folks. So I go back and listen to that again.
It's working for me. I like it a lot.
That's awesome. Make sure you check out Shaun at ShaunRawls.com. That's ShaunRawls.com. Shaun, you've done a lot of great things in the real estate space and in the business space and helping leadership. And frankly, this has been a wonderful time together. So thanks for what you do. We appreciate your time today, and thanks for starting with a win.
Thanks for what you do, and thanks for having me on. This was fun. I look forward to seeing you again.